Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to talk about Tele Ticket Service. I'm founder of Redtree. Redtree is one of the largest Belgian ECM integrators in Belgium. We are an integrator, so not a web agency. We are technical guys, 30 engineers with 2 offices in Ghent and Antwerp. We build mainly enterprise projects for larger customers, as you can see. Our company is structured in 3 main business units. Content capture is all about scanning, content management, content distribution, and then underneath we have a data and semantic web team who are working on processing large amounts of data. We work, and of course this case is for Tele Ticket Service, which will be presented by Manu.
Good afternoon. Tele Ticket Service is one of the biggest companies for ticketing in Belgium. We cater for the ticketing of the 7 venues, 3 arenas, and 4 theaters. We started really early with just telephone, so people would have to call for getting their tickets, and we would have a call center with operators that would order phones in a very classical way. The Spore Palace is the building you see over there, is one of the biggest arenas in Europe that has a covered roof. We have an enormous attendance, a yearly attendance. I think we're right after the New York Madison Square Garden and the O2 Arena in London. We, of course, as we've been in the business that long, we cover a couple challenges. We have to sell out the Spore Palace in about 10 minutes. It is important to sell out completely, because basically the first seat we have 0% margin, and the last seat that will be sold will have a margin of 100%. So we have a high demand to completely sell out. Obviously, it implies that there will be an enormous load. We often open our gates at 9 a.m. and people will be ready. They will be ready with all their computers, laptops, mobile devices, and the load is incredibly intense, but we seem to cope, and it's a challenge that we have been having for the longest time now. Initially, we had the call center operators, and they shared their experiences with the customers at lunchtime. So we would have the improvements that we could do to cater for their demands would be done by phone, and at lunchtime they would discuss what could be improved. Since we went as an e-commerce to the internet, we completely lost that bond with persons, with customers that are people. So we're trying to do a big race to gain that back. So I assume, yes. So I will pass over to.
Thanks. So going back to the challenge, at first, great demand. It's easy for Adele to sell out Spore Palace, but it might not be easy for a local artist to sell out at the same venue. So creating demand is about marketing, is about selling, is about bringing the message into the public. So that was one part of the challenge, and the other part is cope with possible high demand. If Adele is coming to Spore Palace, eventually the venue will be sold out in a couple of minutes. So we had a business challenge and we have a technical challenge, and I tried to grasp that in the following 2 slides. The first slide, from a technical perspective, it was very clear that we needed an enterprise-grade solution. Of course, it had to be performant, high available, because there will be blaming on Twitter whenever a ticketing engine or the selling website is down. It needs to be scalable. Content, of course, when we are selling products online, content is very essential. It's authored by one team of multiple marketing guys, and it had to be integrated into the current stack and to the legacy IT environment, but also in several other components within the company. So we were really building not only a website, but a digital business. From a business perspective, and I took that picture a couple of minutes ago in the cinema here, fast lane, fast ticketing, it's very relevant for the Tele Ticket case. We need to sell and support the customer experience. Of course, we were selling tickets, or Tele Ticket Service is selling tickets, but actually they are selling experiences, theater experiences, concert experience to their customer, and a ticket is just a way to get in. So we need to understand that customer on the same level as they did ages ago with selling tickets through phone, and of course, again, scalable, not only on a technical side, but definitely on the business side. So taking these two into account, the technical challenges and looking at from a technical perspective and from a business perspective, it was clear that Magnolia was the best solution to fit in this demand. And this visual, I missed it this morning, but this visual is for me still the most powerful visual that someone ever created and had it shows the unique vision that Magnolia has on content. Content within the core, but content that is being used in a digital platform. Not building the full-forced battleship and trying to incorporate it all, but being open to collaborate, to integrate, and to set up a modular platform as you want. So this vision, we brought this vision to the customer and convinced the customer from Magnolia. From then on, we went to a project. I know that this is the business track, but I want to touch very briefly the technical solution that we had come up with. And we understood that Tele Ticket Service needed closed-loop marketing. It's a very fancy terminology, but closed-loop marketing actually means that you identify your customer, your target, and from identifying your target, you try to understand his behavior. From his behavior, you try to adapt your message in an automated way or manual way. You try to adapt your message on a personalized way to your target in order to sell more, to upsell, to cross-sell your product. That's high level, the concept of closed-loop marketing. Of course, this is theory. We needed to implement this in a workable solution. So again, it's a business track. So I've summarized it with the components. Which components were we implementing? Of course, the website. The website is, if you want to, the shop where people come into and buy their tickets. But it's not just the website. It's the platform. It's the entrance of the first touch point of the experience. Then we had a data platform. I commented as in detail what we were doing there. A data platform, a process engine in order to work on the data, and the outbound messaging system, which is based on activity. What we do first on the website, when people come onto the website, we try to identify them, even if they are anonymous users without registering themselves. We try to identify them, and we log all the behavior that particular customer. We have a way of really identifying an anonymous customer and attaching all his behavior to that one unique ID that we've created for each individual customer or potential individual customer. We capture his behavior into a huge amount of log data, which is being injected in our data platform, where we are reasoning on that data. So we capture every click, every hover, every possible behavior that is being executed on the website. We capture that and store that in a data platform, then reason on that, and that reasoning, it's very complex, and we could go on a technical level, but that reasoning will eventually result in the possibility to create a segment or create several segments over the customer database. So each customer is put into one or more segments. And these segments are used on two levels, used on the automation of personalized communication. Whenever there's a mail going out, we take into account the segment that the user is part of. And whenever content is being displayed, it's not in this phase, but it will be in the future, content that is being displayed on the website, the segments are also taken into account. So when we know that a certain visitor is always buying VIP tickets and always buying high-end tickets, he will be pronounced, or the mail will be, the content of the mail and the type of message will be different from a youngster that is buying his first ticket on the website. And that's the idea. It's more than that, but these are the basic building blocks of our project. So we identify the customer anonymously, and whenever they register, we know what they did before. So anonymously and registered users, we try to capture data, capture his behavior or her behavior. We reason on that behavior. We create segments from that behavior, and then we use these segments, we use this info to adapt the message to the customer. We use that info to create a personal conversation with our customer, taking back or going back to the personal relation that Tele Ticket Service had once when there was a really Tele Ticket Service, when people were buying tickets through the phone. So these were the building blocks. Now, that was a technical solution. From a business perspective, we had a different approach. We had to understand the customer and how the customer was buying or is buying tickets. We did this through interviews, we did this through persona studies, through various exercises. We came up with 4 main blocks: inspiration. People were being inspired through different channels: radio and television advertisement, website advertisement, own searches through their own network, their friends, Facebook, whatever they were getting inspired. Once they were inspired and wanted to go to a concert, they organized themselves in group with friends. They purchased the ticket, and then they lived the experience. They entered the venue and lived the concert, and then potentially sharing their experience in order to inspire someone else who might be interested in the future venue, the future event. So these are the four building blocks of a buying experience that a customer is going through. And that's the first step. The other step is visualizing the whole ecosystem of stakeholders that we were into. Tele Ticket Service is our customer. Tele Ticket Service is the company that is building the website and selling tickets. But the customer of Tele Ticket Service, the customers of Tele Ticket Service are not the ones who are buying the tickets. The customer of Tele Ticket Service is actually the artist or the event organizer who wants to sell his tickets. And there's a whole ecosystem that is really complex, and it's good to understand that in our future exercise. Now, the future exercise, what we did, setting up personas and creating for these personas the visual that these 4 pillars or these 4 stages, mapping them out on a story, on big story maps, and saying, okay, these type of customers are inspired by this and this channel. These type of customers are getting themselves organized by using this and this tool set and by communicating this and this way. These customers are buying their tickets through mobile phones on their job. Maybe some potential customers like Pieter, an older man, he's still calling Tele Ticket Service to buy his tickets. So in order to understand really these personas, we mapped this out in a huge document for each persona, knowing that we will end up in setting that technical solution underneath these storylines. So whenever this exercise was ready, we were ready to build stories, and that's what happened then. Together with Manu and his team, we were writing stories. Just based on these storylines, we were writing, okay, this guy, maybe this feature will work. For this guy, maybe this feature will work. So that was the customer journey mapping and ideation. The ideation that went further from just one feature towards features that something for the far future. So in our approach, when we look from mission to implementation, we started With understanding the customer March last year, we actually visited the conference last year to get a grasp of Magnolia together with Tele Ticket Service. We mapped out the experience, how our customers buying and how our customers living the concerts. And then we translated these into functional stories and started to implement. With the resulting first release just before Christmas last year. And we are now in an agile process where we are doing a production release every week, which is something that we are very proud of. We heard it this morning that it's very essential in order to innovate, to release very often and do that very smoothly. We are, and I might say, quite successful in that. Resulting in the website that is looking like this. What will be in future releases that is, of course, or it's already something that is implemented, newsfeed, artist pages, Discogs integration. You see here Discogs integration, which is a very important part of it, that the content is not only written by a content author, but we have different sources of content, and we are able to implement and integrate different sources of content, and that's the power of Magnolia coming in again, that using different sources of content in order to publish it to various channels. It's not something that the website is the final destination of the content. No, the website is one potential destination of content. You bring in content, organize it, and you tailor your content to a specific audience on a specific channel and adapt it along the way. And that's really powerful. What were the true challenges in this project? One of the biggest challenge was focus. As you understand, it's a very large implementation. It's a very large project. It's hard and it's very challenging. No, it's easy to fall into the trap of working out one detail and forgetting about the whole picture. We had to stay focused together with the customer in order to build a core platform, and from then on being able to implement detailed functionalities rather than to work out one detailed functionality and forget about all the rest. One of the other challenges, and it's still a challenge, is working with the ticketing engine. The ticketing engine is the place where tickets are created, where a venue is configured or a concert is configured with tickets and all its parameters around it. But there are two ticketing systems. There's the existing ticketing system, and the customer, and we are calling it the factory. We have a factory and we have a shop. Now we rebranded the shop and we rebuilt the shop. Now it's time to change the factories. The old factory has to be replaced by a new factory, and that's quite challenging job working with these two factories, because eventually we will work with the old ticketing system next to the new ticketing system, and it all has to work together. So on a technical level, even on a functional level, working with these underlying technologies and underlying third-party products is very challenging. Another very challenging part is from a data perspective, knowing and understanding or deciding what is worth measuring. We are capturing all that logging data, but not everything is worthwhile to reason on. So at first we were very naive, and we were implementing the interests of the customer. We are trying to identify the interest of a potential customer, saying, okay, this customer might be interested in pop music because he is surfing to web pages that are related to pop music. That's one parameter that we are measuring right now, and we are reasoning out right now. But another potential and very interesting case could be the impulsiveness, measuring the impulsiveness of a buyer. And can we identify the impulsiveness of a buyer? Can we know how long a buyer or a potential customer is taking before he actually buys a ticket? Is he someone who comes onto the website, goes straight to the pages of his interest and then buys a ticket? Or is it the type of customer that is surfing along the way to actually find the ticket that he wants and then is buying it? So these type of things are very difficult, or is a challenging exercise to do. What are our conclusions, or how do we cope with this? we've touched it before, fail fast, fail often. Of course, we made mistakes along the way. And it's okay to admit your mistakes as long as you're learning from it. And as long as your infrastructure or your industrialization of your project is allowing you to do. Creating an environment, both interpersonal and on a technical level, to work with these failures, to cope with these failures, to learn from it. We have a process in place where we do reviews together with the customer, sprint reviews, technical reviews, in order to understand really what went wrong and how to take action to overcome these failures. Another important part is acting as a partner and not as a vendor, integrator, customer relationship. In the first stages of the project, that is of course always the case. But you need to set up a scene where it's easy to talk about difficulties and where it's best to be as transparent as possible. And I think both Magnolia, we and the customer are in this situation, which is a very luxury position. And the last one, and not the least one, is hire a data scientist. We hired one along the way of this project, and it's from tremendous importance. It's someone who is diving deep into the data and who brings meaning into the data. Because starting from that logging data, which is line per line an action that a customer was executing on the website, coming to a segment is something that is very, on a technical and even a mathematical level, interesting. And that's not a job of a developer. Of course, as a developer, we can write jobs through code, but the data scientist is really diving into the data, understanding patterns, recognizing patterns, and identifying these patterns, giving them to the business, and saying this might be interesting to explore more. And from there on, there can be set up campaigns in order to test these assumptions and to work on these assumptions. And maybe that will lead to more tickets being sold. So that's about our story.